Once upon a time, in a kingdom far beyond the reaches of the known world, there lived a princess named Aveline. The kingdom of Serenora was known for its beautiful landscapes, vast fields, and towering castles. Aveline, the only child of the king and queen, was born with a delicate crown of golden hair and sparkling blue eyes. She was loved by all who knew her, as her heart was as pure as the crystal-clear lakes that dotted the kingdom's landscape. However, despite her beauty and grace, Aveline's life was far from ordinary. When Aveline was born, the kingdom rejoiced, and people from near and far came to witness the birth of the royal heir. The king and queen were overjoyed, for they had longed for a child to inherit the throne. But as Aveline grew, it became apparent that the royal family's future was not as secure as it seemed. The kingdom, though prosperous, faced many challenges. Other lands coveted Serenora's riches, and rumors of war began to stir across the seas. When Aveline was still a young girl, an old seer came to the palace and warned the king and queen of an impending danger. The seer spoke of a time when the princess's life would be in grave danger, and only by hiding her true identity could the kingdom be saved. Fearful for their daughter's safety, the king and queen made a difficult decision. They would conceal Aveline's identity and keep her hidden away from the world. For years, the princess lived a life of solitude, tucked away in the most secluded part of the palace. To the outside world, she was just an ordinary girl, hidden from view, living among the palace servants. Only a handful of trusted advisors and servants knew of her true identity. Her parents, although deeply pained by this decision, believed that it was the only way to protect her from the looming threat. Aveline, unaware of the reasons for her isolation, grew up with a longing to explore the world beyond the palace walls. She was curious about the life she saw from her window, about the people who worked in the fields, the children who played in the village square, and the travelers who came to the kingdom from distant lands. But her days were spent in the company of the servants, learning household tasks, studying books, and mastering the arts of music and painting. Though her life was comfortable, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. As the years passed, Aveline grew into a young woman. She was not just beautiful, but intelligent, kind, and brave. Her spirit was full of untapped potential, though she didn't realize it yet. One day, as she wandered through the garden, Aveline noticed a group of children playing in the distance. The sight brought a smile to her face, but also a sense of sadness. She longed to join them, to feel the freedom that they seemed to have. But she was always kept under the watchful eyes of her guardians. It was then that Aveline decided that she would take matters into her own hands. She had heard whispers among the servants that there was a world beyond the walls, a world where she could be free. She knew it was dangerous, but her desire for adventure and to discover her true purpose was stronger than any fear she had. So, one evening, when the moon was high and the palace was quiet, Aveline slipped away from her chamber. She donned a simple cloak to conceal her identity, and with nothing but her courage, she made her way to the gates of the palace. For the first time in her life, Aveline stepped out of the palace and into the village. The bustling streets were full of life, with market stalls selling colorful fabrics and fresh produce. People laughed and chatted as they went about their daily lives, completely unaware of the princess in their midst. Aveline felt both excited and nervous, but for the first time in years, she felt alive. She wandered through the village, enjoying the sights and sounds. As she passed through the square, she noticed a young man sitting by a fountain. His clothes were simple, and he was focused on carving a piece of wood. There was something about him, something that made Aveline stop and watch him for a moment. His hands moved with such precision, and his brow was furrowed in concentration. After a while, the young man looked up and noticed Aveline. He smiled kindly and nodded at her, as if he had been expecting her. "You seem like you're lost," he said. "Can I help you find your way?" Aveline was caught off guard. She had never spoken to anyone outside the palace before, and certainly not someone like him. Someone so down to earth. She hesitated, then smiled shyly. "I suppose I am a little lost," she replied, her voice soft. "I'm Julian," the young man said. "Would you like to join me for some tea? It's getting late, and I know a place that serves the best jasmine tea in the village." Aveline was hesitant at first, but something about Julian's warmth made her feel at ease. She nodded, and they walked together to a small tea house tucked away on a quiet street. The tea house was cozy, with wooden tables and soft lantern light. The smell of herbs and spices filled the air, and Aveline felt more comfortable here than she had in the palace. Over tea, Aveline and Julian talked about life in the village. Julian shared stories of his travels and the people he had met, while Aveline listened intently, fascinated by the world beyond the palace. For the first time, Aveline felt like she could truly be herself. She told Julian about her longing for freedom, though she did not reveal her true identity. As the night wore on, Aveline realized how much she had learned in just a few short hours. Julian was kind, wise, and full of life. He had a simple way of looking at the world that made everything seem so much clearer to her. In his company, Aveline began to understand that there was so much more to life than what she had been told. Over the next several weeks, Aveline continued to meet Julian in secret, each time feeling more connected to him. She found herself looking forward to their conversations and the way he made her see the world in a new light. But as time went on, Aveline also began to feel the weight of her secret. The palace, her family, and her identity as the princess were always with her, looming over her like a shadow. She wanted to be free, but she couldn't deny that there were responsibilities she couldn't ignore. One fateful day, Aveline's life was turned upside down. A messenger from the palace arrived at the village with an urgent message. The king and queen had been taken ill, and the kingdom was in turmoil. The royal advisors were desperately seeking the princess, but they had no idea where she had gone. The danger was real, and the time had come for Aveline to reveal her true identity. Julian, unaware of Aveline's true nature, was heartbroken when she told him she had to leave. He had grown fond of her, and he could sense that something was wrong. "Will I ever see you again?" he asked, his voice tinged with sadness. Aveline hesitated, looking deep into his eyes. "I don't know," she whispered. "But I have to go. There is something I must do. I wish I could explain everything to you, but for now, I can't." With a heavy heart, Aveline returned to the palace, where she was greeted with both relief and surprise. Her parents, though concerned for her safety, were overjoyed to have their daughter back. As the kingdom faced its darkest hour, Aveline was called upon to take her rightful place as the heir to the throne. Despite her years of isolation, Aveline rose to the occasion. With the wisdom she had gained from her time among the people and the lessons learned from Julian, she proved to be a strong, compassionate ruler. She brought peace to the kingdom and guided it through the turmoil, uniting the people with her kind leadership. Months later, Julian returned to the palace as a messenger from a neighboring kingdom. He was shocked to learn that Aveline, the woman he had grown to love, was the princess. Aveline, now a queen, welcomed him with open arms, and they continued their friendship, which eventually blossomed into love. Aveline's story became a legend in the kingdom. The Hidden Princess, as she was called, was not just known for her royal lineage, but for her wisdom, kindness, and the love she showed to her people. She had learned that true strength came not from titles or power, but from understanding and compassion. The moral of Aveline's story is simple. It is not our status or position that defines us, but the choices we make and the love we give to others. True strength lies in embracing who we are, understanding the world around us, and using our gifts to make the world a better place for everyone.